This is the Silt versus role-playing game Family Ties Part 9. We are back after a little bit of a break, and let's do some recapping at the beginning of our session here. So you have three active assignments, only two of which are currently being worked on. The one that's not being worked on is the Skyward Sprawl. I will reintroduce it whenever you all decide to go deal with it, but basically it's the one where there's this schism between followers of this construction god and these people who live in this high rise, and they're like having a literal war in this high rise right now. Um, the two that you're both or that are being worked on right now, the Bowered Companion is the one where we have this stray god of travelers and pathways who is causing the trade routes to get all twisted up, and trucks are not being able to make their deliveries. They're getting lost on the road. And you all have directly experienced this god's power because this god is aware of you and has tried to stop you from stopping it, basically, by getting you all kind of using its ability to kind of manipulate space and time. It got you all caught in this loop of going to what could have been endless numbers of possibly not real diners on the road. We saw a couple of them. But you all did eventually make it to this town, Ulm, which we believe is in the vicinity of where this god is in this forest on the Whispering Plains, or the Whisper Plains. You all were just kind of beginning your investigation of that, but you did learn a lot about this god on your journey, your weird, twisty journey to Ulm, and you've determined that in order to deal with the Bowered Companion, you're going to have to appease it. That's going to be the fastest, easiest way of dealing with this because this god is pretty powerful, and you just need to appease it, figure out what kind of sacrifice is necessary to deal with it, and that's your next question, and it's a complexity 6. Zeph, that's where three of you are at. Zeph, however, is over in Welkin's Vigil. Welkin's Vigil is a slightly different circumstance. In this one, we have this battle saint, which was previously erected as a memorial that has been animated and is crashing about the land around Welkin's Vigil. We haven't seen the battle saint yet, but we have seen some evidence of its destruction. And Zeph had kind of started off that investigation by essentially going up into the hills outside of Welkin's Vigil where there are these windmill saints, and you're having a reflective moment on the hills with the windmill saints, and I think this is where you're picking up a clue that I owe you, which is maybe something that you can only see from your raised position, which is there are deep craters in the ground overgrown with wildflowers. And I think that's more or less where we're at with the assignments. You currently have 6 conspiracy clues. Out of character, you are 2 conspiracy clues away from triggering endgame. And taking a look at the custodians, you're actually all doing pretty well on conditions right now. Basil is empty presently and being watched by Pickles. Japheth's various afflictions. Maybe most significantly, Japheth is blind and dealing with osteoporosis and fungal rot. You're just falling apart, Japheth. I hope everything's going to be okay with you. Is there anything else? Oh, we had an advancement, I think, on the Karen Maiden follower on Zeph. Do you want to tell us what that was, Sarah?
Sure. Let me get to my character sheet here. I had previously taken Hollow Gaze,
Hmm.
and with my latest advancement, I took She Waits in Ruin.
Hmm.
Once per session, you can appear in any scene, looming in the background as a silent witness. So long as you do not speak, you can choose any one of the following. You find a useful or interesting item, ask another player in the scene what it is, and add it to your altar. You find a clue where no one else could notice it, tell the keeper what it is, and the clue cannot conclusively answer the question by itself. Or you learn something about a nearby danger, roll with advantage the first time you act on this information.
It's a great move. It's one of those like auto win moves. We love those. No dice roll needed. And it also kind of is really ironic because Zeph like seems like they kind of hate the Karen Maiden, and you're kind of becoming the Karen Maiden with this move. So that's interesting. So, any other advancements or any other character things we need to be reminded of?
I took an advancement a while back. Hang on a second, the life of service. So as we approach new scenarios, I should encounter NPCs
Yeah, that's
and
right.
recognize them.
So we're doing that, I think, at the kickoff here in Ulm, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so I will consider what that is. In fact, let's kind of get everybody oriented in space and time. Basil, you said that you were going to search around the town to look for people who are cooking dinner or something like that. Uh, like that very much. Japheth, I do like the idea of you wandering blind into town and encountering someone per that move. We'll deal with that. And Gage, are you still going to be going to this community building with Lucas? Is that the plan?
Yeah, want to see what the get the general feeling for the area.
Yeah, that sounds good. Um, I think before we do all that, I want to pick up with Zeph, though. Zeph, once you're done having your contemplative moment with the Windmill Saints, what do you do?
I unmute my audio. I would like to, because in our little brief, we were told that there was like some sort of historic and site or divine significance, like the Glottage government had set something
Yes.
aside.
This assignment is only happening because some muckety muck in based really cares about Welkin's Vigil because they're like a weird history fetishist. And otherwise, this would probably not rise to Based's attention. It's no business of Based's whether this community wants to have animated this battle synced or not. It's just destroying their own community. I guess that's the main issue. Um, I mean, there's obviously danger if this thing is allowed to kind of stomp around and unchecked or fly around unchecked, whatever it does. We haven't seen it. We don't know. But yeah, this is a city of historic significance. And I think whenever you get down into the town, you're going to see that. You're going to see like a lot of signs of like this is like one of those sort of historical war, veteran towns. So.
I just presume that, like, because this was part of the town square or like some sort of monument in the town that probably had a little placard before it was
The
animated.
yes, it was, yeah. Hmm.
Is there some sort of historical society or like a visiting or a signpost or a
Hmm.
historical like
Yeah, I mean,
place that
are
I
you
could go
going
to?
back into the town then? Is that the plan? I
Yes.
mean, okay. Why
Yes.
don't we start with the town square then? So you come down from the hills where the Windmill Saints are at, and there are other like parts of those hills to investigate. By the way, they're called the Creeping Hills. These steps that end in sheer coastal cliffs. But for now, the town square is a small mound with a traffic roundabout. There are quaint cobblestone sidewalks and a few tourist shops. There are orange traffic cones surrounding a massive stone plinth that lies toppled halfway across the road. No battle saint in sight. This must be where it happened. Chunks of dirt and pavement are churned and scattered in a path leading away to the hills. There are a lot of like interesting, historic features here. Like this is a historic town. For example, if you take the time to look at a brochure, Zeph, you'll learn that the town square features original cobblestones laid down, a number of decades ago. And there is an ornamental fountain. There is a memorial rose garden. The lampposts are clearly like of an era. Painted shop facades that harken back to an older, perhaps better time. Let's paint the scene, everyone. At a glance, the locals appear to be working around this obstacle, i.e., the torn up plinth, without much difficulty. How can you tell they're actually quite agitated, but doing their best to avoid showing their agitation?
If you were to look very closely, despite calm outward signs, all of them have nails bitten almost to the quick. Some of them have just little pieces of their eyebrows missing from picking at them.
There's a tone of voice as somebody's relaying cobblestones that just has an air of exhaustion where it's like, pass me another cobblestone, Bernice. My grandfather laid these decades ago, and I don't want to have to lay them again.
I think there's little bits of um, graffiti in the form of prayer marks or prayer marks in the form of graffiti that say like end this shit or like we are tired, things like that, that are just like pleading to whatever like strange little gods in little tiny ways to just be done with what they're doing here.
I think that you can tell that no one's had a good night's sleep in a long while because they're all on edge. And the way this manifests is one of the cobblestones falls out of someone's hands and makes a loud slap against the road. And everybody within sight jumps physically and largely, like huge reactions to just a tiny noise.
I love that. I think as you enter the town and you're kind of maybe just kind of taking all this in, Zeph, you're approached by a man with a tweed jacket with elbow patches. That's your first red flag. Um, Very beady eyes behind green tinted spectacles, chewing on what appears to be an antique churchwarden pipe, quite pale, as if he's spent a lifetime avoiding sunlight. And he says, hello, hello. Welcome to Welkin's Vigil. Does that...
Silently staring at just like making eye contact.
My name is Peter Mullock. I am something of a local historian. I do a lot of work with the Welkin Historical Interest Preservation Society, often called WHIPS, if you will. We do love a joking acronym, don't we?
I'm somewhat biased.
Well, we don't often get outsiders who are not clearly on with part of some sort of tourist group just wandering about in the middle of town. I have to ask, what brings you to Welkin's Vigil? And he seems to be like trying to ineffectively put himself between your sight of the torn up plinth and um so like you can clearly still see it, but he's like in by instinct trying to block view of it, right?
You smell like dead trees and sleeplessness. What do you want?
Well, if we're dispensing with all pleasantries, I just want to impress upon you, as we try to impress upon all visitors, to, well, to help us maintain the integrity of our various historical artifacts and edifices. It's very, very important that we all do all we can to maintain things as they are. Do you catch my meaning?
I think that means whatever was behind you is your problem.
There's really nothing you need to concern yourself with there.
You seem the one that is concerned, friend. I'm just passing through.
Well, do let me know if you would like a tour of, or anything historical in nature on your way out.
I think Zeph is just going to unsettlingly stare at this man until he gets uncomfortable.
He does. He rubs his elbow patches and sort of tuts off. What do you do then?
I think it's just the shoulder bump as I walk by, just like brush into him, walking around him, and to investigate the actual plinth itself to see what actually happened.
I love that. You can go ahead and make oh, whatever we call it in this game, the information move, maybe. Um,
The no stuff move.
go ahead and do the revelation move. No, the information move. When you search for a clue, conduct research, or otherwise gather information, describe how you're doing so.
Poking around in some rocks and things. See.
Go ahead and roll with reason, not reason, insight.
Okay, I'm just gonna see if I can maybe get some advantage on this. Nope. Nope. I'm just gonna roll flat. It's a 9.
9.
And do I have any reason? Oh, what did you call?
Insight.
Insight. That's a +2 for 11.
Nice. We'll come back to this. Okay. Back over on the Whisper Plains in Ulm. I think it's probably like early evening at this point, or like the sun is kind of going down, we'll say. And as you're going to this sort of community building, Lucas says, "So what do we do? What are we going to do when we get there, Dad?"
I think there's a visible flinch when Lucas calls him Dad, and he'll say, "Gage is fine, kid. Just talk to people, do our job, figure out what we can, get the general temperature of the area."
Got it. Is there anything I can do?
I reckon so. If there's someone who seems particularly fond of maybe sneaking around, hiding something, you are sneaky, get into small places. Maybe you can keep an eye on them.
Can do. And I think you'll get to this little like sagging town hall. It's actually not in great condition. It looks like some windows have been busted out, just boarded up, and the front doors are like kind of hanging ajar a little bit. It looks like maybe this building doesn't get a lot of use. It certainly doesn't seem to have been very well maintained. What do you do?
Are there vehicles in the parking lot? Does it look like there might be people inside?
Go ahead and make the information move with reason or insight. Ugh.
That is a 7.
We'll come back to that. Basilichamp. I think that in the town of Ulm itself, there probably aren't. Well, there's not much of a town for starters. It's mostly just a little a a, a, a thoroughfare, and then sort of on the outer periphery, kind of actually really kind of in the forest, you have just a number of small shack houses, many of them abandoned, actually. What's your approach here?
I think I am just looking at like chimney stacks and looking for something where there would be a fire lit. I think that basil probably also has a certain like sensitivity to smell, and that like I can tell from a distance that like, oh, somebody's cooking, like somebody's doing a stew here, they're like roasting some meat here, they're boiling vegetables, that kind of thing.
Make the information move with insight.
Uh-huh. Ooh. Well, that's snake eyes.
Hmm. I'm going to tell you straight away. There's nothing. No smoke coming from chimneys. No kids playing in yards. no sounds of laughter. It is dead. It is empty. It is
Mm.
abandoned.
Hmm.
It's so abandoned. Like as you're walking around, you see these little abandoned houses, and they're barely houses. They're mostly just little shacks. A lot of them have the doors still kind of hanging open, as if people just left and didn't even like think to button up before they did so. You might even peek in and see personal items left behind in a lot of these little homes.
So
Yeah.
I think I actually want to mark a verse here. And I think I would frame it sort of like narratively as I, if this makes sense, you can tell me if not, but I am the abandonment of the place doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel true in a way.
Hmm.
There's like either this like abandoned area is sort of like a facade to maybe like chase people away. Like I feel like I get a scent of something being cooked somewhere.
Mm.
And yes, like I'm scouring through and I'm like, what is going on? Like there's nothing here, but yeah, I'll bump up the result here.
Marking a verse, huh? Which
Yeah.
verse are you gonna mark?
I think I'll do a verse of history.
Okay, I like this. You do. You catch a smell on the air coming from one of the shacks that smells like, oddly, it smells like diner food, but not in a diner. Let's paint the scene, everyone. What what does Basil smell that smells like reminiscent of a diner? A little out of place because it's just out in these little ramshackle homes in a forest.
Something smells like bacon, maybe? Little funky edge to it might not be from a pig.
Meatloaf, specifically with ketchup.
There's an almost pleasant odor of apple pie, but on the nearest windowsill, there's just a round grease stain. There's nothing on the wood.
It smells, it all smells so um Cracker Barrel in whatever the Silt versus version of Cracker Barrel is, but
Cracker Barrel is the most Silt versus ass place you'll ever find. And I know as someone who ate at like four of them on my trip.
but lobster. There is like a strong scent amidst all of this lobster, and maybe it even takes me back to Aunt Skittles of like that weird like breakfast seafood kind of
Oh,
thing.
so
Like,
bizarre and gross. Yeah.
yeah, there's a weird fusion going on here.
You can smell these smells coming from one of the shacks. There's no evidence of anything being cooked. It's not even totally clear
Mm.
there's anyone in the shack, but you do smell them. What do you do?
Um, I mean, I'm going to go in.
I owe you a clue. Before you go in, I'm going to give you the clue now.
Yeah.
The clue is um, you actually find just outside the door of this place, seemingly dropped on the ground, a hand carved walking stick engraved with prayer marks. It's really beautiful
Hmm.
and not the sort of thing somebody would just discard.
Mm-hmm. This is great because I wanted a walking stick
We'll come
for
back to
some
this.
reason.
Japheth. Let's read your move. We read the relevant move so we can know what we're doing here.
Yep. So life of service. You've traveled far and wide as a member of the Retchman's Order, saving many lives. The first time you arrive at a new assignment, you can find a side character who remembers you for your service. The keeper will tell you who it is, describe how you helped them in the past, and then choose two of three options.
My goodness, is that Japheth de los Santos?
I'm gonna like look around since I can't see. Yes, who's that? Where are you?
You can't see me. Did you did you take on someone's blindness as part of your devotion?
Yes, it was the right thing at the right time. It helped a person in need.
You are truly a you you, you stand in good stead with your God, no doubt.
Oh, well, your voice is so familiar, but I can't put a finger on it. Take my hand.
She does. Sarika Dev. You'll remember her as a librarian from a little out of the way town. Presumably it was this one, although at the time you didn't really put two and two together. You wouldn't have any reason to. What did you help her with?
Being a librarian, I'm so tempted to go with the most ridiculous thing of a paper cut, but I want to dig a little deeper. Worst paper cut you've ever seen. What did I help her with? Um, is she old enough to have children?
Sure.
All right. She had a child who was ailing in this way that was hard to define, just kind of like a crib rot of a sort. And the kid's flesh was sort of oozing off into the sheets, and I took that ooze upon myself.
She says, "Do you remember me?"
Uh, the sound, yes, yeah. Yeah, you were books. You were involved with books, yes.
Yes, yes. You helped my daughter. She was suffering from some sort of infection. I remember when the infection transferred into your body. I thought you were going to lose your own arm, but I can see now that it was okay in the end.
Yeah, illnesses kind of come and go, but that's my I don't know, my lot in life to take on these various ailments. I'll make like a hearty cough and like cough out a piece of fungus into my hand, shake it away.
Think about the two options that you want,
Hmm.
and I'm going to check back in briefly with Zeph. Zeph, where did we leave you?
I got an 11 on my investigation roll
That's right.
into the plinth and the destruction.
That's right. That's right. Let's go ahead and give you that clue. Um, there's nothing in the plinth that is particularly noteworthy, except fluttering on the breeze, pinned to the ground by a piece of rubble, is a sign up flyer for a group called the Ceaseless Watchers, some sort of neighborhood watch group, perhaps. That's your clue.
Zeph will pick that up and kind of crumple it into their pocket and go walking off in a particular direction into town.
Sounds good. I think as you're walking off, you'll notice that there's a fair number of people kind of looking at you funny, like who are you? What are you doing here? Um, for a touristy historical town, they seem to be a little xenophobic. Maybe they're just on edge because of this animated battle saint. You need to figure out whether it was animated intentionally or not. Everyone's kind of giving you like a funny look, except for one man wearing a very expensive looking wool cloak, fine boots and gloves. He has windswept, fiery orange hair, and he's holding up a pair of bird-watching binoculars, and he looks very like kind of out of place. A lot of people you've seen are wearing like military, like old military jackets. There's like this is like a trucks with bumper stickers kind of town, right? Flags, that kind of thing. But then you have this like dandy, almost effete sort of bird watcher, and he sort of gives you a courteous bow and says, "Good afternoon." Or I suppose it's almost good evening.
I'm not much of one for niceties, friend, but as you are the most normal looking amongst this crowd, perhaps we could have a conversation over here. I gesture to a bench and I want to sit with the standee and see what the rest of the town thinks about this. Because
Oh, yeah,
obviously they're paranoid, and I want to know what flavor of stranger
right.
danger they see in me.
Harlan Scythe is my name.
Zeph, Harrow, not a
Scythe
bird
and
watcher.
Harrow. What an interesting combination.
Man, we just met. Okay. Can you tell me why everybody's looking at me like I look at you?
Oh, you have to ignore everyone. This is a town full of small-minded idiots, I'm afraid.
That's every town I come to. This wretched job.
Hmm. Tell me, what do you think of birds?
I don't.
Oh, well, that's just sad. Birds are, well, they're magnificent creatures. Such lovely creatures are birds. They can be cruel, of course, nature and all that. Did you know that Old Welkin, that's what we called it back in the day before the rebranding, Old Welkin was the last known location of the iridescent clawed sky dancer, a bird too dazzlingly beautiful to exist in this world. Some said it was a god. And those other birds, drab and dull and jealous of its beauty, they pecked and clawed its feathers out one by one until it couldn't fly. I would like to think that I am somewhat spiritual. I'm spiritually aligned with the iridescent clawed sky dancer. I, too, am a bird too dazzlingly beautiful to exist in this town, being pecked apart one by one by all the drab birds here. But I'm going to put up a good fight.
So do you like live here? Is there like a place that I should go while I'm in town? Do you have a good diner here? Why are these people so paranoid?
I don't know about where you should go, but I'll tell you where you shouldn't go. Maybe that'll be just as helpful. Do not go to the third watch. It's an old guard tower that's been refurbished to be a pub on the bottom floor and a museum on the top floor. That's where all of the close-minded people like to gather.
Again, why are their minds so closed? This is the height of paranoia that I haven't experienced in any of the small towns that I have been at. Forgive me. I have
Hmm.
been walking on the road for quite some time.
Yes, I
Is
can
there
see your
anything?
shoes look quite worn.
Well, I'm not as iridescent as I could be, but it's rude to point it out.
Fair enough. My apologies. So, at this point, go ahead and make your information move with, um, mm, I think it's
Presence?
presence.
Kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah, it's presence.
You know, just irritated that the standee can't gossip. Shit. Okay, well, that's a middling 7, and I think my presence is minus
No, it's a
1. No,
one.
+1. 8.
Very good. We'll revisit this in a moment. We'll have another scene with everybody else, and we'll take our first break. So Lucas and Gage. Gage, you are going into this community building, yes?
I was checking around to see if there's any sign that someone's
Oh yeah.
actually
Did
in.
you roll the information move?
I did. I got a 7.
Oh, 7. Um, I think as you're kind of looking around, you'll hear, well, well, howdy, friend.
Cage will turn right away with a big smile and ready to extend his hand as he heads toward the source.
You'll see a man who's sort of graying at the temples, maybe a little early. He doesn't seem that old. He's got a bolo tie, and he's just gotten out of a very, very kind of rust-chewed vehicle. He pulled up around the side of the building, probably reserved for people who work there. He says, Ellison Hunter, I'm the mayor of Ulm. It's nice to meet you.
The mayor, nice to meet you too, Your Honor. I'm Gage Wright. This is
Oh, we don't need all that Your Honor stuff. Just call me Ellison.
Wilson. It is.
Is this your little boy?
This is my little pal. This is Lucas.
Your little pal. Well, hi, Lucas. And he goes to shake Lucas's hand, and he kind of pops up and he says, well, what brings you and Lucas into town?
Well, as it so happens, I'm representing an organization called Biased. You may have heard of us.
Yeah, possibly, possibly. Is this about, are you possibly here investigating real estate investments?
No, sir. I'm here investigating some trouble with well, a god.
Well, gods are nothing but trouble. I think we can all agree on that. Can't we, Lucas? Lucas nods. Well, I tell you what. I bet you and your boy are just itching for a tour. Come on, I'll show you around. Nothing much happens in town hall anyway.
I'll gratefully accept and put a hand on Lucas's shoulder.
Indeed. I think I'll give you your clue now. The condition is just that you are. I'm going to give you a suspicious condition. Despite his friendliness, I think Ellison is trying to keep an eye on you and figure out what your deal is, what's going on. Also, just the fact that he's sort of waylaid you a little bit. But you will notice as he's talking with you that he is kind of playing with a little effigy made of twigs and broken glass. And when he sees you seeing him fiddle, or when he sees you seeing him fiddle with it, he kind of shoves it into his pocket. But that little effigy made of twigs and broken glass that he's handling, that's your clue. Basil, you can take that walking stick if you want.
Oh yeah.
Do you go into this shack that smells
Yeah.
so inviting?
Why wouldn't I go into a place that smells inviting?
No, indeed. I think when you go inside, it's a TARDIS situation. The inside is much bigger than the outside.
Ooh.
In fact, it's like this beautiful, shiny chrome and formica diner. It is the diner. It is the diner at the end of the universe. It's the diner of all diners, right? And you see people sitting at the counter, and they're drinking coffee, and you can actually hear them sipping the coffee, making that like kind
Ooh.
of coffee sipping sound, kind of a sort of slurp sip. And that was delicious. Absolutely delicious. Why don't you go ahead and pour me another one, Hester? And um, Hester, he says, well, of course, I'd love to pour you another one, Bill. And he goes and he pours the coffee. Hester has very, very dark circles under his eyes, and he looks really tired. And he says, I sure would like a little bit of help around here. We're so busy, it seems like. There are other patrons, and Hester seems to be the only one serving them, waiting on
Oh
them.
no.
Hmm.
Well, you've set the trap. I'm going to go over and say, I happened over here that you are needing help. I would admit that I am not much of a server, but if you need some assistance in the kitchen, I could certainly fill that role, at least for a short time.
Hester looks up, and he's had this like smile on his face, especially as he's pouring the coffee and doing all this business. But when he looks up at you, his eyes kind of narrow, and he says in a stage whisper, Get out! Get out while you can! Turn around right now! You still have time.
Oh no.
I would like the this is the revelation move. There's no way around it. What do you afraid
Yeah.
is going to happen if you fail right now, or if you don't keep going?
Oh, that I mean, the sense that I suddenly have gotten is that this is some kind of like eternal like time sink trap. Like we've been doing this loop-de-loop thing, and maybe I've found a dead end here, so to
Yeah,
speak, in the infinite. Yeah.
yeah, you are. You're going to be trapped here forever, slinging hash browns
It's
and
not the worst thing,
yeah.
but
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think you're going to be rolling with. Oh, I don't know. Um, Probably communion, and I think because of empty, I'm going to put you at disadvantage because there might be something appealing about this, right?
there probably is something appealing about this. All right, let me grab a third die here. Oh, okay, so that is I take the worst two.
Mhm.
5, 6 only.
We'll revisit this in a moment. Japheth, what did you decide for your two options?
Yeah, that Sarita should warn me of a nearby danger
Mm,
and should have a gift for me.
mm, very good. I'll think about those things in a minute. We'll pick up with that scene. Let's take a quick 5 minute break. We'll come back and do all this stuff. Japheth, this librarian, Sarika, she says, I feel like I owe you a good turn, Japheth de los Santos, for everything you've done for me and my family. I'm not sure why your work has brought you here, but you should know that there are dangers. There are people, dangerous people, to be aware of. You'll want to avoid anyone who identifies themselves as followers of the lighted path. There's a god in these parts, an old, stray god called the Bowered Companion. Its followers are long dead, except for these few who call themselves the followers of the lighted path. They're still around, and they. I just think they're trouble.
Well, I appreciate that. If only I could see the lighted path, it might come to me a little more easily, but I'll do my best.
I suppose it's a bit ironic.
Yes. Is the Fadings Freight Company, do they still pass through here?
Well, not like they used to. There's been some trouble with this god. Apparently, it's in its loneliness and anger and desire for worship and anger at not being worshipped. It's sort of causing the trucks to get lost on the road, it would seem. I think I saw one of those trucks just on the way in, though. Looked like the driver was having some trouble getting it started. I don't suppose you know anything about healing trucks as well, do you?
Oh, if only I did. My shoes would be a little less worn.
Mm. Well, you know, and here, so this item, do I define it or does someone else define it?
I'm supposed to have another player define it.
Oh, okay. Well, what does Sarika give to Japheth?
Anybody have an idea, or should I call on somebody at random? Sarah's playing
I
the
th-
nose game. All right, go for it, Ben.
it is something that looks like a compass, but it doesn't turn north. A little metal strip has a prayer mark on it you don't recognize.
And she says, I know this may not be of much use to you given your current condition, but I do think it can help you get around this place. And she kind of presses it into your hand and she moves your fingers so that you can feel the prayer mark that's been etched on the glass.
Well, that's unfamiliar, but I'm sure it'll come in useful at some point. At least I can touch it. That's the kindness. Thank you.
There aren't many people here who need to be healed. Japheth de los Santos, why are you here?
That you
There's
mentioned
not many
that.
people left at all, in fact.
Yeah, you mentioned that Bowered Companion, and I'm here to try and put that thing to rest to appease it in some way.
We'd heard rumors that the government was going to send people in to deal with it, but that was that was weeks ago.
I mean, you want the community to heal, don't you?
Of course, I'll do anything I can to help.
It seems like I know that you're a small. Each of us is small. That our own little tiny decisions don't seem to impact much. But I feel like if this desolate community has a chance of rebuilding, it's going to come from the actions of those within it.
She kind of squeezes your hand. She says, "Well, if you need me, I'll be in the library. It's no one visits the library anymore, but I don't know. It's at least somewhere to go every day, I suppose, right?"
Yeah. Do you have any books in Braille? I feel like I might need to start learning that.
Why don't you come by and see me when you get a chance?
We'll
I'm
do that.
sorry, come by and visit me when you get a chance.
Nice. Can you, I don't know, point me towards that truck that was broken down?
Yeah, sure, of course. And then she kind of like, she'll
Hmm.
kind of guide you just a little ways down the road, just a few hundred yards that way. You'll probably hear it revving, trying to start.
All right. I'll meander that direction.
Gage and Lucas, Ellison Hunter says, I tell you what, why don't we take my car? It'll be faster that way.
Oh, sure, I figured we'd start here with the community center, the real heart of this place, but if
Nah,
there's
there's
nothing
nothing to
better,
see
Matt.
there. Just boxes and files, and that's not that interesting. You want to see the really good stuff, don't you, Lucas? Lucas says, I guess so.
Well, you are the local expert.
And he gets in the car. You'll see Japheth like on the road, like walking on the road, and as the car is kind of like pulling, you know, pulling down the road kind of slowly, and the windows are rolled down, and Japheth, you can overhear this man, Ellison Hunter, chatting with Gage and Lucas, and he says, "It's starting to get a little dark, but I'm sure we'll be able to find a lighted path." And what do you do, Japheth, upon hearing that?
Uh, I'll yell out, almost as though the car was nearly going to strike me, sort of a Gage, watch out! But hopefully he understands that I'm not actually talking about the car because the car was not that close to me.
Make a veiled move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
Oh man. Uh, There's another car driven by another member of the lighted path who's following Gage, headlights off, and just runs me down.
Damn. Go ahead and roll with focus, we'll say.
All right. 7.
Yeah. Gage, I think you just hear you just hear Japheth yell, "Watch out." That's it. And Japheth, I think like well, Gage, you just hear Japheth yell, "Watch out." When you turn to like see what Japheth is yelling about, you'll see a car coming across the like through the intersection at a pretty fast speed. There's not a sidewalk or anything, so Japheth's just kind of wandering in the middle of the road. What do you do?
So, sorry, is Japheth the one at risk for being hit, or is
Yes, Japheth
okay?
is. Yeah, but he yelled "Watch out" to you, or maybe he yelled "Watch out" to I don't know. It's unclear. Maybe he yelled "Watch out" because the mayor's car almost sideswiped him. Who knows? But what do you do at this point?
Is Lucas in the back seat, or is he beside
He's
me?
in the front with Ellison, and you're in the back.
I mean, Lucas might be a god. Okay. Gage is just going to reach through the gap in the seats and just yank the wheel to try and intercept this car.
Oh, that's definitely going to be the veiled move. What do you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
Lucas is going to die.
Whoa. Go ahead and roll with. I think it's either focus or vitality. I'll say vitality.
3.
Three. Not great.
Well, I'll definitely be marking a thing. We can skip to that because I think we have a line there,
Do we have a
actually.
veil on it? I don't think we actually do we?
No, we
No,
don't.
we don't. We don't. You reach for the wheel, and I don't think Ellison like actually means you any harm in this moment, and he just sort of like instinctively hits the brake, and it causes Lucas, who is not wearing his seatbelt, uh, to get smashed up against the dashboard, and we fast forward a little bit in the aftermath of this. Japheth, you can walk up into the scene as well. And Lucas, as he as you're maybe cradling him in your arms, Gage, he says, "Don't worry, Daddy. I have one more life." But he doesn't open his eyes. Unless
I'll be
you're
marking a
writing a
verse here.
verse. Yeah.
Yeah, writing
Which
a
one?
verse.
Prophecy or history?
History this time.
Hmm. We got a lot of irons in the fire, but we'll keep them balanced as best we can. Zeph, Harlan Scythe. I continue to love Scythe and Harrow. Harlan Scythe. He he says, "You seem to think that I'm not being very forthcoming with you, but I've actually told you just about everything you need to know about this town. You just need to learn how to read between the lines a little bit. But I will try to make it a little bit more obvious. I know not everyone has my particular affection for the well turned phrase, the subtle hints and innuendos. Ah, and here he will tell you, um he will point out something that is repeated on banners and memorial signs in several different places. An old motto: Heroes of Olvidian never forget. These people are stuck in a past of their own imagining. They will do anything to reclaim the glory they think they had.
I really do appreciate the plain talk. There's so little innuendo in death.
He says, now, there's the matter of her right over there. I think she's here for both you and me. And if you stare across the way, in between a group of people carrying lumber and other repair supplies in the town square as they cross back and forth, kids purchasing kites from a kite seller, a couple of tourists meandering about. The very distance, you see her. She is standing there, her weird long limbs, her long hands sticking out of her tattered sleeves, her cowl. She points. And even though she is hundreds of feet away, she points. And she's pointing at Harlan Scythe. Harlan says, I don't have much time left, I'm afraid. It seems that I was put in your path.
Don't worry. I'm mostly harmless, but
I
it's
don't,
always painless.
well, I don't think I need you to help me end it all, if that's what you're suggesting. No, 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 no. I think what she
Zeph is
wants.
just shoving a knife back into
Yeah. I
slowly.
think what she wants is, well, provide me a little bit of companionship on what is very likely my last day. And this is a task from the Cairn Maiden to comfort this dying man.
Scythe is a moniker of your own design, then?
What's in a name, really?
The smell of roses and not much else.
Mm.
Come on, then.
How do you feel about bird watching?
I'll watch you watch birds.
Very well, very well. There's a spot up in the creeping hills. Follow me.
Back up the hill. Zeph will go. Just really resigned to not only do this task now because she's actually not asking me to kill for a change. It feels like she's trying to give me some respite in addition to this man. And I go bird watching.
Indeed, indeed. Uh, Mark Fate. You'll be able to clear it at the end of your day with Harlan Scythe. And let's see what everybody else is doing. Basil how do you know you're never going to escape this diner?
Um, I think that um, Bill has finished another cup of coffee and says the exact same thing about that's I don't remember the exact words, but it's the exact words. And asks for another pour. And as um, Hester is pouring the coffee into Bill's mug, I can tell that this is not a Grinding Lord brew. This is not any kind of like, it just looks like the void of space with stars being poured into his mug. And I see Bill sip it. And as I look at Bill's mouth, I can see his teeth are just like coated in whatever this like void sauce is. Like his mouth seems to go on forever. And I don't know, I feel like I may have been hallucinating a lot of things these past few days, but it certainly all feels real.
Hester says, I'm so, so sorry. It's too late. You're stuck here now with me forever. I,
Why would you ask for help if you just wanted me to leave?
I'm just trying to do what I'm supposed to do. I'm trying to play my part. Maybe
Your
there's a
part
way.
is
Maybe there's a way where we could switch. Since you're stuck here forever, maybe I can go. Maybe only one of us needs to stay. Unless you're writing a verse here.
I'll write a verse. I don't want to be stuck here forever, and I don't want Hester to replace me. Although that would be kind of fun, wouldn't
That would
it?
be
I'm
interesting,
not done yet.
yeah. I think you'll be able to leave, but I do think that I'm going to give you a condition called the dinner shift,
Ooh.
and you are going to have to work the dinner shift.
All right.
How do you prepare to do your work in the kitchen?
Um, I mean, I want to see first like what ingredients are stuck here for all eternity. Is there a fresh supply? Do I have infinite choices, or is it just the same four ingredients that I'm going to have to be working through for however
There
long
is a
I'm here?
very well stocked dry and cold storage.
Oh, fantastic. So I think I'm just like walking around and writing down like every recipe that comes to mind, dropping them to the floor. Um, uh Classic Basil Lachamp style until there's essentially like a tile of papers and recipes all over the floor of the kitchen.
Fantastic. We'll come back to this. Gage, um, you managed to cause the car to like cut off the other car, and then they honk, and there's a lot of like kind of what's going on, what's going on. I think that you are going to you're all going to get kind of bruised up a little bit. Take that as a condition, but otherwise everyone's safe. Japheth, you just hear the commotion. I don't think you're otherwise really aware of what's going on. Ellison says, what was that all about?
That car there was going to hit that man.
Why, you have amazing reflexes, friend. But maybe give me a little bit of a heads up next time. Whew, I, goodness sakes, I felt like my spirit almost jumped out of my skin there.
Oh, apologies, Mayor. Perhaps
Lucas says,
give
that
you a
was
little something.
badass, Dad.
Gage is fine, kid. Maybe a little bit of a snack will help calm your nerves.
Oh,
Got a couple things in my bag here. Might be up your alley.
Japheth, you can kind of enter the scene now, if you wish.
Uh, is it the scent of sweet Jolly Crunch Tooth that draws me over?
Probably the fact that like you can hear the like cars like going wild, and then you can also hear the screaming from inside their car. Yeah.
Uh, as I come over, I'll say, all the. I'm grateful for all this noise. I can't normally see it, and it's like walking a dark path rather than a lighted path.
Gage will roll down the window and say, "Sir, you doing okay?"
I'm in better. I'm in a safer state than you, I think.
Well,
Ellison
that's a
says,
strange thing to say.
"Sir, can we take you somewhere?"
Well, I was told there was a broken down, fading truck, a Fading's freight truck, and I was going to see if I could offer assistance to the driver. I think
Right,
it's
right.
over
Oh,
that
I
way.
saw that fella on the way in. I think he was just about getting it figured out. Why don't you get inside? Me and Gage and Lucas, was it? We were just about to go take a little tour of the surrounding area. You can join us. We'll see if we can find that truck as well.
Okay. I have to ask out of character. I cannot recall if Japheth has met Lucas.
I don't know.
Probably. At
Probably,
least
yeah,
when
because
we
you've
were
been traveling.
traveling
Because
here.
you were traveling with him. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Because you were all in the same car at one point. Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, in getting in, I guess I say I'm grateful for the ride. My feet are definitely a bit sore from all this walking.
I think everyone's kind of calming down. Lucas is a little bruised up, but okay. Ellison says, "Whew, what a day! What a day! Well, there's so much to show you, really. I mean, I I don't know if you know anyone who's looking to invest or to do some sort of like, developments, commercial, real estate, anything like that. But Alm is lovely. There's so much going on in the Whisper Plains, and the car kind of like keeps going.
I'm gonna make I don't know, kind of be situating myself with my hands, making a sort of a show of I can't see, but then what I'm really doing is like seeing if there's anything that slid between the cracks in the cushion. Like, can I find something in this guy's car that's interesting?
Oh, interesting. I like that a lot. Make the information move with focus.
All right. 10.
10. Nice. I'll give you a clue. Um, Ellison takes the car out into the tree line, which is not hard to do. Most of the roads go into tree line. There is quite suddenly a very, very thick fog. You would have noticed this fog on the way in, but it rolls in so fast. It's almost acrid, this fog. It kind of stings your eyes a little bit. Lucas even says, "Ow, Gage, my eyes."
You just keep 'em shut, kiddo.
Ellison says, "Is everything okay? Here, we can roll up a window." And he kind of rolls up the windows. And now you're all just on this foggy road. The sun was already getting low in the sky, but the trees are making it perfectly dark. Not perfectly dark, but quite dark.
Well, it's funny you should mention developments, Mayor. I represent not just the good folks of Biased, but also our what's an epithet for Sweet Jolly for our good friend Sweet Jolly Crunch Tooth.
Oh, yes, yes. Right, right. Well, not not easy to grow wheat out here, I'm afraid. It's all just loamy soil out here.
Well, there's a lot more to it than that. There's the packaging facilities, the place where the real work happens.
Could you hold that thought, please? Look up ahead, and you'll see, piercing the fog, what appears to be a cabin. There are lights from inside the cabin, from a fire or lantern or something, and it's kind of cutting through the fog. He says, "Now that is a historical cabin. The founders of Alm, they built that cabin. Maybe you'd like to take a look."
Is this a standard stop on your tour of Ulm,
Well, I
Mayor?
just, there's so many nice things to see. And he stops the car and gets out. Says, "Come on, kid, you'll like this one." And he even offers an arm to you, Japheth.
Oh, that's very kind. I'll take his arm.
What are you all doing right now? Ellison is taking you to this cabin. this log cabin.
Good loamy earth, you say?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna draw that machete out of my backpack, the one that says reap and sow,
Mm,
and just be ready.
I like that. What are you doing,
With
Japheth?
with the
I'll give
sort
you
of
the
the
clue
role as
too.
a oh right with the role as a poxmartyr, like can I detect an illness in somebody that they're not aware of?
Maybe.
Then put a different oh let me go a little step further. My hope is to kind of bluff that he has an illness, and so I'm kind of asking that question of like maybe it doesn't matter whether this is a known quantity of pox martyrs, but as he's got his arm in my arm, kind of touches his arm like are you aware of the illness you're facing?
Let me back up because I think what you find in the car might change your approach here.
No, okay.
You find in the car a quivering pine cone filled with meat.
That is gross.
We'll come back to
So
this. That's your
going
clue. That's your
forward
clue,
then.
by the way.
Okay, yeah. Um, Going forward then, walking with this guy. Sorry, what's his name? Ellis? Is that right?
Ellison Hunter.
Ellison. All right. Walking with Ellison. I'll say the land here it grows all sorts of I don't know what you might say atypical seeds. Yes.
He's very distracted, but he says, yeah, "Yes, I suppose I'm not. I'm a politician, not an agrarian.
But has it always been that way? Is it like you must have grown up here?
Possibly, maybe I don't know. Look up here. We're just almost at the cabin."
And I say, I'm still gonna. I want to try and leave him a little discomfited. I'm gonna still, as I'm kind of like stroking his hand, say like, we should sit and have a talk. There's something ailing you that you may not yet be aware of.
The cabin. There's a rumble. You can feel your feet shifting, your ground shifting beneath your feet. The cabin physically turns, as if looking at you with its glowing lantern eyes. And we'll cut there. Basil, what is the dinner shift like?
It's busy. All these people, they want so much. They want special orders. I'm just trying to make my genius brilliant revelatory art, and they want blueberry pancakes shaped like Marley Mouse, um, and things like that. And so I keep on trying to like I'll make the Marley Mouse pancakes, but then like hide some kind of like yeah, brilliant like culinary like flavor bomb underneath, like that kind of thing. Just trying to make the most of my time here, which is potentially forever. Um, and I think as I do that though, like I'm looking for those patterns, right? Like the sort of like what are the indications of what where the loops are and where they aren't, that type of thing. Like trying to read like where the gaps might be in eternity here. Um, and yeah.
I love it. Information move with communion. I'm going to put you at disadvantage because you're on the dinner shift and should be focusing on your work.
Okay, fair enough. Um, would
Unless you
you
want to
let
try to cancel it
me?
out somehow.
Yeah, if you'd let me use something here, I'm sure that I've got. Oh, I mean, I've got empty journals. So
Okay.
what if I'm just like taking notes of like, yeah, like sort of like the classic time loop thing of like I am just documenting
Yeah.
everything and
Yeah.
then comparing, essentially making a paper spreadsheet.
I like it.
Uh, okay.
That'll cancel out the disadvantage. if you mark it.
Cool. Thank you. It's a 4. 5, I guess. Yeah, 4 on the table though.
There's a lull in the dinner service, and Hester comes back to the back where you're at in the kitchen. He says, oh, you're doing great. You're doing great back here.
Well, I feel tired.
That'll pass eventually. How do you feel about front of the house work?
Hate it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just not my thing. I'd rather die than do front of house work.
Right. So, I don't know how to tell you this, so I'll just come right out and say it. But I think you're probably trapped here forever.
Yeah, I've been getting that sense as well. How long, if forever, do you think you've already been here?
I don't know. Sometimes it feels like the shift just started, and other times it feels like it's never going to end. I don't really. I'm not sure where how any of this got. Well, I I was going to my shift.
Hmm.
I was going to my shift. I was I was trying to take a shortcut. I was already running late, and so I went down a road that I don't normally take,
Mhm.
hoping to shave off a few minutes. And then I ended up here in this little shack. Well, I at this shack, my car broke down. I got out. I tried to see if anybody could give me any help, and here I am. And I thought that maybe I just hallucinated the whole journey and that I was just at my shift. But now I realize that can't be the case. I don't know how to get out of here. The shift never ends. It's always beginning. And they
Yeah,
always
well,
want more.
speaking of which, here's that unseasoned chicken breast and butter noodles for table 7.
Good, thank you. Uh, I've had this theory.
Oh, a theory.
Yeah, I've had this theory that if just a second, I'm coming to some customer. I've had this theory that, well, that maybe if I sacrifice something to this place, that I'll be able to escape.
That's an interesting theory. Let's sure that there's a half dozen, maybe 2 dozen gods that um, could help you out of a situation like this.
Well, possibly. I think that whatever's going on here, whatever God has put me in this place, it I think it wants something. It wants it wants blood. I think it wants well, I've actually tried with the patrons. I for a time I would bring them their eggs over my hammy and just push a steak knife into their throat to see if that would get me anywhere. But they just like would pull it out like nothing happened. They would just keep on eating blood, just sort of gurgling, blurging out of their throat, spattering all over their plate. It's disgusting, vile. I think they're always going to be here. They're just part of the scenery. But you're new.
Um, I'm gonna mark a verse here.
You can see him going for
Yeah, I
like a fry like a
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
fry basket or something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
which is why I am reading that. I'm reading what's going to happen here, and I'm going to turn the tables. I'm listening to everything that he said, and I feel like this theory is fairly sound. So I'm gonna mark a verse and slit his throat.
Ooh, yeah, I like it. It's good. Think about what the scene looks like.
Mhm.
I'm going to check in with Zeph real quickly. Zeph, let's talk about the creeping hills. This is a series of climbing steps which end in sheer coastal cliffs. There are actually homes up here, flat homes built into the rock, actually, and they sort of peer out over the abyss through narrow windows. There are steep switchbacks and single file staircases snaking out of sight to hidden perches, empty lookout posts and cannon mountings which were never put to use. If you were so inclined to observe such things, maybe you are, maybe you are not, there are historic features here as well. Signal lights, military bunkers and walls, never used. A small rusted airplane parked on an overgrown runway, again, never used. Let's paint the scene. What legends do the locals tell about the threats Welkin's Vigil faced from the hills long ago? Threats which never happened, by the way.
And I don't have this specific threat, but I get the distinct impression that they had to fight their battles uphill both ways.
Could I give me a little recap here? I'm a little lost on the visual. They like built fortifications that were never used.
Yeah, they so this is just like a sort of like there are like homes now built into this cliff face essentially, looking out over the ocean, and there's like switchbacks that you can kind of go up and down. But there's also like lots of evidence that like these were like yeah, like fortifications that like there were cannon mountings and there were all kinds of things like
Okay, so sort of
but none
quaint
of it
New
was ever
England
used.
town, but built on a fort, sort of.
Yeah, well, that's part of it at least, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And Harlan is just interested in it because this is like a great place to look at birds. There's so many little lookout spots.
Let's go with that. Within the braziers are all these gun ports, which have become bird nests. And what else? Sort of occasionally you'll see a bird to make space, like shoves out some old munitions that then tumble down the side. Occasionally there's like a little like sizzle and pop of some old munition that kind of wasn't quite a dud as it falls down the cliffside.
Well, the question was, what legends do the locals tell about the threats?
Oh, I'm so sorry. What legends?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, pardon me. If I
What
just missed
threats were they
something
supposed to
important.
face that they never did?
Got it. Got it.
Think on it.
All
Any
right.
other thoughts?
I think the followers of that silent howl and their floating airships were purported to have been seen in the area, and that's why they have cannons to blow them out of the sky water.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they tell legend of a dark black storm cloud that hung over the surface of the entire town for weeks. It rained and flooded, and they were constantly having to trudge up the hill in a deluge of water to try and crest the peak so they could finally be victorious.
And I think tied into that, there was just a fear of the sea itself, wanting to launch an attack, and so they had dug all of these trenches. So as you're even like walking up the switchbacks, there's these like trenches and gullies that run down that were meant to divert when the sea attacked. Like how do we divert its energy and its force? And yeah,
I think just pass on me. I'm not coming up with anything really
It's
great.
fine. Zeph, think about what you want to do in this scene. And I want to check in with Gage and Japheth. Japheth, you can only hear these things, but Gage, you can certainly see it. The cabin rises up. It is the head of a titanic entity made of stone and earth and moss. It sort of rumbles up. Ellison Hunter looks at it with wide eyes and he says, "Yes. Look upon it, my friends. Look upon an angel in the fog. An angel. An angel of the Bowered Companion. Of he who follows, of the light along the path, our old friend." And it's looming and lumbering, and it raises up a fist that rubble and stone sprinkles down from, and it lets out a bellow and swings. Let's take a 5-minute break. So we're back from break. Let's pick right up with this angel of the Bowered Companion, this lumbering elemental type creature. It's huge. The head is a cabin. It's titanic. I mean, we're talking, Shadow of the Colossus size here, right? It's a huge thing. And it slams its fist down, kind of sending earth and rocks spattering, everywhere. Gage, Japheth, what do you do? Ellison's not going to be any help. I think he lured you here to make a sacrifice of you or something. Lucas is kind of standing there looking up in awe, but you can also very quickly see that he's quite terrified. Or his awe becomes terror. Gage, what do you do?
Well, if that angel is after a sacrifice, I think Gage wants to give it one.
In the form of?
The mayor.
Ah, interesting. Japheth, what do you do? You can't see anything, but you can hear it.
Exactly, yeah. The ground vibrations help my echolocation. Yeah, my thought was to initially sort of slip back to the car while the mayor was in his soliloquy in the hopes of, I don't know, Lucas driving us out of here or something.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely get into the car. Are you going to try to drive? What are you going to do here?
I don't have a lot. I'm not exactly a high combatant character here with a lot of other tools. And unless like putting on the fingerless leather gloves from Sister Coral and clapping my hands 3 times summon Sister Coral to my aid.
So, I don't think so.
I don't see it happening.
Sounds like you're panicking at the moment. So
I think that's
Gage,
my best move is just to like try to get in the car and get away.
yeah. I mean, you can get in the car. I don't know if you'll be able to get away or not, but you'll certainly be able to get in the car.
I'll grab Lucas's hand and be like, Lucas, let's get in the car and go.
Gage, describe what you do, please.
I think there is a moment of panic, of fear, but seeing that Japheth is at least metaphorically looking out for Lucas, I think he's going to charge forward with that machete and try and just stick it right through the back of the mayor.
Interesting. This is going to be the revelation move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
It won't accept my sacrifice.
I think it's worse than that. It just, yeah, I think it's worse than that. It will smash you, and then it'll start going after the car. So go ahead and roll with vitality. Let's see how it goes.
And I'm going to mark my machete for advantage.
Nice.
That is 11.
Nice. Be thinking about what the scene looks like. Zeph, it's it's a lovely spot where Harlan has decided to go bird watching. There are these like little kind of like lookout spots, which are really kind of like sightseeing spots now, looking out over the water. And he's rattling off the names of various birds and gulls and things, you know. What are you doing while he's just kind of enjoying his supposed last day?
So I want to pitch a version of She Waits in Ruin in which Zeph is completely silent in this scene,
Mhm.
but they begin to like Harlan's looking out towards the water and he's got his blinders on, essentially
Yeah.
looking through his bird watching binoculars and prattling on and on while Zeph is slowly undressing themselves and like sloughing off their leathers. And as a camera, we can see the back of them, and they have all of their spotted skull tattoos that have been etched into their flesh. And as they reach to kind of just relieve him of his ornate cloak and then proceed to undress him as well, you can see as the camera pans away, it almost looks like Zeph's spinal bones are writhing beneath their skin.
Which of the options are you going to do in She Waits in Ruin?
I think that I'm either going to find a danger, or at least information about a danger nearby, I think is what I'm going to do,
Okay.
or a clue where no one else would find it. But I was going to let you
I think the
go
danger
straight.
makes sense
Mhm.
because you can see down the switchback paths, you can see some trucks coming up the paths. And you said you undressed Harlan as well?
I'm going to, yes.
Yeah. Harlan is just letting you do this, and you can hear the trucks coming. And he says, "You know, it's a funny thing. I knew that this was my last day, that I am a dying man. And indeed, your God has put you here to see me on my way. But I don't actually have any sort of illness. I am not dying from some plague or other infirmary. No, my death, my death is coming up the road just now, and you're going to be here with me to witness it." Or perhaps you are meant to see them on their way. I suppose I can't hope that the Cairn Maiden plans on you saving me. It doesn't really seem her style, does it?
Zeph, seeing the danger come up the road, realizing that this is precisely the kind of vulnerability that will lead to his death, just reaches a hand over his shoulder and points to the coastal horizon, and there's a glinting shimmer of wings over the ocean.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting, interesting. Let's cut back over to Basil. Basil, do you want to give us one of your verses?
Yeah, so I think as the scene cuts back to Basil, we are in the woods. It is dark. There's a campfire, and you see young Basil Lechamp um, writing notes, dropping them on the ground. And on the other side of the fire, there is a large tattooed hog just staring at Basil. This is, if you remember, Basil had the wax and this like this particular sect of the waxen scrivener, they tattoo an animal with the butcher's diagram with recipes on it and that type of thing, and they're meant to slaughter it. Uh, he snuck off with his as opposed to slaughtering it, and that thing, the hog, then killed some of his classmates who were chasing him. So they are in the woods in exile. I don't know if exile is the right word, but uh, Basil is like dropping. He's taking these notes, and the hog every once in a while just um, is staring at him, and then like and goes and eats up the notes. And Basil is just like staring. They're both staring at each other. The hog goes back to its position and is just staring at Basil. Basil is staring to see if there's any reaction. And what we can see is that Basil is like writing sort of like commands onto these notes to try and like influence what the hog does as it's eating uh, these notes. And at some point, the hog speaks to Basil and just says, "I know what you're trying to do, Basil the Chomp, but I am the one who feeds." And then we cut back to present time in the diner. As I think you were describing, Hester is grabbing like a skillet, is what I imagine.
Yeah,
Like,
something like that. Yeah.
and I think Basil has had the same idea as Hester here, and is a little bit on the defensive. He's picked up a mop and has been like, as they've been chatting, has been mopping the kitchen floor. And as Hester like lunges at Basil with the skillet, I think there's another thing where Hester has been here so long and has become almost like this automaton, right? Like just repeating these same actions over and over, that this is something different. And this is a completely different way to move and that type of thing. He remembers how it should look, but he doesn't remember how to do it. Where Basil has been here much less amount of time. So still has that ability to kind of like, here's a thing that I did 2 years ago or whatever the case is much different than 1,000 years ago. And kind of like props the mop in like a wedge between the wall and the floor, like a kitchen, and sort of like the old like anti-cavalry technique of like just kind of like bracing so that um as Hester leaps, the pole of the mop just like goes like punctures his throat, and Basil just says, "Ah, ah, ah, little pig."
This diner scene has been really great. I think that I will let you, based off everything you've learned in this scene, I will let you define a clue for the Bowered Companion based off of the events of this diner scene. So be thinking on what that might be,
Ooh. Okay.
because a lot of talk of sacrifice and stuff was made,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Speaking of sacrifices, maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure Ellison Hunter. He could just be crazy. What's going on here, Gage? How do you save everyone by offering up Ellison Hunter?
Well, the good loamy soil here, it makes Gage think of his god, his field. And sometimes they just get thirsty, and sometimes you just need to water them. So with that uh, machete in the mayor's chest poking through the front of his shirt, Gage is just going to kind of kick him in the lower back to slide him off the machete and let the blood drain into the soil. And he'll look up at the angel and say, "You got your sacrifice right there. Leave me and mine alone."
I think the angel kind of recedes back into the earth. But before it does, the cabin door opens up, and you can see inside the cabin. You can see a hearth, a glow. You can see furniture even. It just uses his rocky hand to scoop up Ellison Hunter inside the door mouth, and the door just closes. And then it's just a cabin again in the woods. Meanwhile, Japheth, you and Lucas are in the car, and you're blind. You probably are not like, I mean, you're maybe kind of fumbling around trying to figure things out. And Lucas says, remarkably calm, I'm glad we're finally getting to have this moment alone together, Japheth de los Santos.
Whoops.
He kind of like crawls towards you, cat like, on the front seat of the car. You can't see him, but you can kind of hear his hands and feet. And he says, The 9 lives. The 9 lives is very upset with you because you prevent people from dying. You prevent people from carrying on with the normal course of things. I see it differently. I think perhaps you are an expression of the 9 lives. Maybe whenever you take someone's affliction, you are giving them new life. These are all interesting philosophical debates, no doubt. And he's very close to you now. You can feel him crawling on you. You and I have work to do. How are you feeling right now?
Oh, not super comfortable. Um, I kind of stammer out in. I see your point that I might actually be of service to the 9 lives in a certain way. For the most part, I don't take on the fatal conditions. Otherwise, I would not be here myself. But perhaps in that sense of multiple lives, I've survived a thing or two. What do you propose we do next in the service of the 9 lives?
Gage, as you're sort of like maybe catching your breath, when you turn around, say, and look into the front window of the car, you'll see Lucas like kind of really close up to Japheth, almost like whispering in his ear. But then he'll stop and look out the window and say, Daddy! And we'll just end there with that little bit. Zeph, what are you hoping to accomplish by showing Harlan Scythe the bird out in the sky?
I think it's a Lenny situation. I was just pointing at a pretty bird.
Mm,
So he would look at something before the death
mm.
impacted him, so he wouldn't see it coming.
Indeed. I think he has other plans. He says, I take your meaning, Zeph Harrow. I take your meaning very well. And I'm very sorry that I have to leave you with all of this. But you're right. My time has come. He steps up onto the little railing. It is my time to fly like the iridescent clawed beauty I was always meant to be. And he jumps. And then the trucks pull up and stop. You are between them and the railing. And a group of people in old military flak jackets and jeans and boots, they all start to get out of the truck. And we'll just kind of end that there, I think. But
It's just the back of Zeph and like
yeah,
hands. And all we can see is their ass.
yeah. It's a strange scene. But you can unmark that fate box. And I think with all that, we will take a 5-minute break. Give everybody who has verses they have to do still. I know Mike does. Ben does. I think it's just Mike and Ben. We'll take 5. Be thinking about those verses. We'll come back. We'll do those, and then we'll do stars and wishes or end of session. Okay. All right. Whoever has to do verses, read the prompt and let's do it.
I've got
Go for it.
I've got 2. Do you want to alternate?
Sure.
So the first one that I'm going to do here is a flashback to a time. Oh, yes, a flashback to a time you were confronted with the fact that sacrifices are necessary for a god must feed. The previous one was a flashback to your youth that shows your rebellious experimentation with illegal divinities. We're going to kind of pick up from the same scene, same setting here. You can see this campfire has like dwindled, and Basil is laying on the ground, trying to sleep and can't, and he keeps on looking over at this hog that is sleeping, and it's like stretched out. It looks happy as a pig, and yeah, like it's probably snoring, but it looks really satisfied at all of this this food or these things that have been consumed, these marks that have been consumed. And we can just see that Basil cannot fall asleep. And we hear a grumbling in his stomach. And he's holding it. He like clutches his stomach and just whispers, "Are you sure it's time?" And a minute or two later gets up and goes over to the hog that's blissfully sleeping away. And Basil just looks at it and says, "I'm sorry, friend. I protected you for as long as I could. But now that you've revealed that you are what you are, it wants to eat you." And he slits the hog's throat and begins to eat it raw.
I have a verse of history, and that is a flashback showing how I had no choice but to sign a contract as a custodian. You see a nondescript tiled room, a table, and at one end it's Gage and his mother and father. They all look shaken, bruised, a little bloodied, but still proud. The man sitting across from them is in a very fine suit with his hair impeccably groomed, and he says it's pretty clear you broke the terms of the contract. And as per those terms, your land, your farm, your lives, all forfeit. He spreads his hands in an I don't make the rules kind of way. and the rights say nothing. And he leans forward and says, "Did you really think we weren't going to find your little prayer marks? Unlicensed prayer marks to an unlicensed god? Jack of the Golden Grin is many things, but he's not unreasonable. We'll still need a sacrifice, of course, but maybe it doesn't have to be quite so literal. See, there's an organization by the name of the Bureau of Investigation and Assimilation of Stray Deities, and my bosses are interested in keeping tabs on what they're up to, making sure they don't go poking around where we don't want them to, digging up things we'd rather keep in the dark." Man leans forward, his eyes not on Gage, but his mother. "Give us your son, and you can keep your land. If he does well for us, maybe we'll turn a blind eye to further infractions. How does that sound to you folks?"
Um, Back to Basil here. We if you recall, there was that moment where when Basil's younger sister was born, that his grandmother was killed. Um, Essentially, like a when one is born, one must die. And so there is this hospital room. It Basil did not understand what happened. He was a very young child, and at some point, he decided to sneak in and investigate this a little bit more closely and figure out what happened. And so he sneaks into the hospital and he finds a way somehow to get to this hospital room, which has been sealed off. It's no longer open. But he, like steals a key from a nurse, all of that type of thing. He's a clever little kid. And he goes into the room. And the room, which had been coated with these like verses and events and splattered in blood, uh, there have been flowers that have been delivered here. There has been like fruit baskets that have been delivered here, but it's been weeks, if not months. And all of this is just rotting away. The blood is brown. There is mold everywhere growing around the room. There's probably mushrooms and spores. And we see like on all of these little like prayer marks, there's like bites, little bites that have been taken out of them, little holes. The fruit feels like it's been devoured by something. And as Basil walks into the room, there's a sweet, that like sweet smell of like ripe decay. Um, and he looks to like one of these fruits, almost looks like a pomegranate and is kind of like half devoured. And there is this big black maggot inside of it that like just shimmers and reflects. It's so deep, so pure. And he walks over and he looks at it and he says, "So you are our God," and eats this thing.
Fantastic. Let's go to the end of session and answer end of session questions. Zeph, you definitely engaged with a god, angel, or other divine manifestation. Japheth, you definitely did at the end, if not before. Basil, you did as well, and Gage, so did you. Everybody got that one. Zeph, I do think you undermined the orders of your superiors or used the assignment to pursue personal interests. I think this whole thing with the Karen Maiden and Harlan Scythe qualifies. Did you struggle with your personal faith?
I think what it is for Zeph is a standoffish, kind of begrudging acceptance in this particular phase, so I don't think so.
Japheth, did you go out of your way to connect with the local community?
Not really. They came to me.
They did. Did you deliver the monologue about the nature of
Yeah.
gods, etc.?
Futility of individual choices. We get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. You can mark that. Basil, did you go out of your way to connect with the local community?
I offered to fill in cooking.
I'll
Uh,
take it. Yeah, you didn't have to do that. I think that was good. It's in the same spirit. Did you undermine the orders of your superiors or use the assignment to pursue personal interests?
I don't think so.
Gage, did you go out of your way to connect with the local community?
I connected my machete to the mayor.
That is very literal. I'm not sure how out of your way it was. Did you undermine the orders of your superiors or use the assignment to pursue personal interests, however?
I'm assuming that killing the mayor of the town we're supposed to investigate is
It's
not in the.
probably, yeah, it's probably not the best approach. Yeah, I think you probably can take that one. Fantastic. Do we have any moves that resolve at the end? Then we'll just go straight to stars and wishes. Um, Whoever would like to go first, please do.
Oh boy, I have a whole slew of them today. It feels so good to be gaming with you all again after this hiatus. Star for Cracker Barrel being in world. That's just pitch perfect. Just little things like Mike, I love how you're making all of your food choices, but not only that, mechanically, you're bumping your rolls when you're looking for food, and that's how you found the cabin in the first place, and those sorts of things. Your prayer hog is so texturally really cool detail, like world building for your character, but I'm thinking of all of the ways that like tattooing prayer rituals on its snout to enhance your own sense of smell, and like it gives a lot of texture to your character and I love it. Star for, I mean, all the food stuff is just me personally starred because that's how I roll in the real world, but I also liked the unseasoned chicken breast was truly horrifying. I liked the Poxmartyr double bluff of like trying to use the fact that you can sense disease in order to create that lie in that foundation. I wonder how your god feels about that, and that's super interesting. Star for blow them out of the sky water. Just throwaway line. I don't know why. That made me giggle a lot, but I also really liked Ben, your use of your they're not called masks. What
Bursts.
are they in the yes, all of the details of the farm and the kind of like company men taking over the bank and like all of those kind of like historical moments that you're bringing in to really kind of get even a Dust Bowl kind of flavor to it is really interesting as a harvest god connection. Um, the fingerless gloves of quarrel summoning, that's a big star. Um, I have two wishes. One is I do want to see some of the. Oh, no, that doesn't. No, that's for next time. Never mind. That's a wish that we can keep on trucking with. That's it for me.
I'll go. Jason, I thought that that Lucas death scene was pitch perfect, even though it didn't happen or end up happening in the main timeline. That was great, and I was almost tempted just to see if that final life would happen down the down the road a bit. Mike, the use of the term void sauce just set my brain spinning. I we need to fit void sauce in here again somehow. Zeph, that little throwaway line of Zeph putting his blade away after not Hera, Scythe was saying he wouldn't need the help, and I really loved your interactions with Scythe today. I'm a little sad he's no longer going to be part of the duo there. Brian, I really liked the visual of Japheth just standing blind as these two cars careen into each other right in front of him, and Japheth being almost seeming just nonplussed by it, and unbothered. It was a good Japheth moment. A lot of little moments there. And I look forward to seeing how that interaction with Lucas. If Japheth decides to tell Gage or just sit with that.
Yeah, my stars. I also really enjoyed that kind of Mr. Magoo moment with with Japheth and the cars. That was a lot of fun. Um, really enjoyed the whole whatever was going on with Harlan and Zeph was really interesting to me, and and it was so interesting how that almost felt like it was almost like the Cairn Maiden like created this like little bubble of existence around the two of you, like you like a different story was suddenly happening in this environment. I thought that was really cool and intriguing, and it was very sad the way it ended, but it was interesting. um I I liked all of the verses were great. All the verse flashbacks and things were really really good, really enjoyable. Very just yeah, like added a lot of texture to the world and added a lot of like interesting notes to the characters' backstories. Very much enjoyed the the whole. I don't know. There was just such a weirdness going on in that diner situation. Just kind of keeping up with this like weird surreal diner thing that we have going on the last few sessions. Really dug that, and I kind of liked how Mike, your character, just kind of like embraced it and leaned into it. We need a clue there, by the way. Don't forget. Um, Kind of embraced that whole situation and sort of made the best of it, while also kind of leading into your natural inclinations, and the sorts of things that we know Basil would do. Really like that. As a wish, I'm very, very curious to see what's going to happen with this whole Lucas and Nine Lives situation and Japheth. I thought that was very, I thought Japheth's reaction was very interesting to me, and I am excited to keep doing this. Like, oh, Lucas is like something else. There's like something else going on here, right? Clearly deceiving Gage, which I think is fun. Um, Also very curious to see what's going to happen with Zeph and these good old boys and their trucks. What's happening there? Yeah, there's just a lot to look forward to, and really interested to see whether the Scatterich family, how it's going to loop back into all of this at the end before you have to confront them. So
Star for me to echo the star with the Harlan and Zeph interaction. That was great. It had the vibes of the man in the sun mask. And oh my gosh, what's her name? Your character from the between. But that sort of
That was
like
Victoria, I
jousting
think.
the jousting and just kind of like the amusing each other, the two characters is always fun when you two do those interactions. The like the pun, the biased pun, and of course the Cold War over whether to pronounce it based and biased has been a lot of fun to just keep track of which characters say which at which times, that type of thing, and who is calling each other out for it. The I I kind of noticed like we don't get to see the characters like interacting in the same scene all that much. And so a big star to the whole like car crash thing. Because that was like there was a lot of like moves that were like shifting between the characters and kind of like developing like as a cross interaction. So that was really fun to have the characters. You were separate and then kind of like intersect and then having that beat of an exchange. It was really like fun and exciting along those lines. Um, yeah, wishes are I think I'm in burn it down mode now that I've axed off three verses in one session. So it's going to be interesting. I Yeah, I'm also excited to see how Basil gets out of this diner. And then it feels like the other characters are kind of on the other side, tentatively like coming in or close to whatever this like plane is between the two things. So I think that will be a fun moment of the sort of like reuniting one way in one direction or the other, or one side of that to the other. Um, yeah, excited for that.
I love the image at the end there of Zeph at the cliff with the hands up. That's a good sort of episode ender as a visual. This is perhaps a wish. I hope that in the town of Ulm, when you kill the mayor, you become the new mayor. What else? Jason, you described a vehicle as rust-chewed vehicle. Oh my God, I loved just the phrase of that. And what, some things have been said already, so I'll skip those. Oh, the smell of meatloaf with ketchup. It's a distinct smell from childhood, yeah. Mike, you had talked about prayer marks in the form of graffiti and graffiti in the form of prayer marks. And that kind of made me re-envision just like modern day urban society. Like I'm going to be walking through the streets a little differently, looking at graffiti, like, and then, yeah, it's been mentioned, but the void sauce of coffee, that's going to stick with me too.
I had
Fantastic.
actually written down a recipe for void sauce. I thought boysenberry and godflesh.
Love it. Any other stars and wishes? Okay. Well, fantastic session. Happy to be back. Let's go ahead and wave goodbye to everybody watching the video.